The FIA publishes new tests of Piastri's car in Bahrain. Stella is shocked.
158 laps, 855 kilometers, and not a single moment of panic. While the paddock was arguing over tenths of a second on a timing screen, McLaren was doing something far more dangerous than going fast. They were going quiet. Oscar Piastri crossed the line in Bahrain, second on the day, running a program that wasn't even designed to find the best time. And yet, he was 1/10 away from the top. 1/10. So here's the question nobody is asking. If McLaren was this fast while holding back, what happens when they stop holding back? And more importantly, has the 2025 championship already been decided in a Bahrain pit lane before a single point was scored? Let's rewind to the second week of Bahrain testing. Every team on the grid knew what was at stake. New regulations, new cars, a new pecking order waiting to be written. And the headlines? They did what headlines always do. They chased the fastest name on the timing sheet. But here's what they missed. While everyone else was hunting that single explosive lap, the kind that generates clicks, debate, and Instagram posts, McLaren arrived with something different. A plan. Lando Norris ran qualifying simulations. He tested power unit modes. He explored downforce variations and mechanical setups across multiple configurations. The car wasn't locked into one identity. It was being interrogated. And then there was Oscar Piastri. Piastri wasn't chasing headlines. He was running a full race simulation, complete with pit stops, progressive fuel burn, thermal management, and consistency across extended stints. The kind of program that doesn't make the front page. The kind of program that wins championships. But that was just the start. Because by the end of that second week, McLaren had accumulated over 158 laps between both drivers. More than 855 kilometers of real, structured, uninterrupted data. While other teams were nursing reliability issues, chasing lost balance, or cutting sessions short, McLaren was still out there. Lap after lap. Clean. Methodical. Relentless. And here's where the story starts to shift. In Formula One, you can fake a fast lap. You can drop fuel load, activate a party mode engine setting, bolt on fresh tires, and manufacture a number that looks beautiful on a timing screen. Teams do it. Everyone knows it. Everyone accepts it. But you cannot fake 158 laps. You cannot fake a clean race simulation. You cannot fake the correlation between simulator and real track behavior across nearly 1,000 kilometers of preseason running. That's not performance theater. That's structural truth. On the surface, the reading seems straightforward. McLaren is fast. McLaren is reliable. McLaren is ready. Story over, right? Not even close. Because here's where the twist lives, and it changes everything. Piastri's headline time on day 2 of the second test? 1 minute, 32.861 seconds. Just 0.058 off the fastest overall time of the entire test week. Sounds impressive. Until you realize when that lap was set. It wasn't set on fresh tires at the start of a session. It wasn't set on low fuel after a clean installation lap. It was set after 86 laps. After a full race simulation. After pit stops. After thermal degradation cycles. After the car had already done the equivalent of a Grand Prix distance. That lap wasn't a peak. It was a consequence. A consequence of a foundation so solid, so well understood, that competitive pace wasn't something McLaren had to search for. It was simply what was left after everything else was done. And that single detail turns the entire narrative upside down. Let's talk about what that really means. In Bahrain, the track evolves throughout a session. Grip changes. Temperature shifts. Wind alters the aerodynamic balance in ways that can expose a fragile car almost immediately. A nervous car, an unstable car, reacts poorly to these changes. You see it in the data. Abrupt performance drops between consecutive laps. Constant balance corrections on the radio. Drivers fighting the machine instead of driving it. None of that appeared in McLaren's long runs. What appeared instead was progression. Adaptation. A car that didn't just survive the changing conditions, it evolved with them. The telemetry painted an even clearer picture. Piastri was gaining time specifically in the first sector, using more aggressive electrical deployment on the straights with a more refined rev range. This wasn't a blunt instrument. It was surgical. It spoke of a driver and team who already understood the new hybrid architecture deeply enough to weaponize it strategically. And here's what Stella knew when McLaren packed up and left Bahrain. His engineers weren't putting out fires. They weren't searching desperately for lost performance. They were optimizing, fine-tuning details on top of a foundation that had already been validated. There is a profound difference between a team that leaves testing hoping their car is competitive and a team that leaves testing knowing it is. McLaren left knowing. So what does this mean when the season begins? First, for McLaren's rivals, the psychological damage is real. Because the dangerous team isn't the one screaming from the rooftop about how fast they are. The dangerous team is the one that doesn't need to. Red Bull knows this feeling. Ferrari has studied it. Mercedes has lived it. And now they're all watching a team that accumulated 220-plus laps across the preseason, ran clean race simulations before most competitors had sorted their reliability, and still appeared at the top of the timing sheet without ever truly trying. Second, for the championship itself, the consequences extend beyond lap times. A car with a wide operating window means strategic flexibility. It means McLaren can undercut, overcut, adapt to safety cars, and respond to rival strategies without being held hostage by tire degradation or a narrow performance window. That's not just speed. That's power. And third, the most uncomfortable consequence of all. If the MCL40 was this competitive in understanding mode, what does its ceiling actually look like? Nobody knows, including, perhaps, McLaren themselves. And that is the most dangerous sentence in Formula One. So where does this end? Scenario 1. McLaren arrives at the first race, removes the final layers of restraint, and the MCL40 is simply untouchable. The season becomes a question of which driver, Norris or Piastri, claims the throne. And that battle inside the garage becomes Formula One's defining story of 2025. Scenario 2. The rivals have been playing the same game. Ferrari's long runs were sandbagged. Red Bull's reliability issues were theater. And when the lights go out in Melbourne, the true order reveals itself, and McLaren finds itself in a championship fight nobody predicted from the outside. Scenario 3. McLaren's structural confidence is real, the foundation holds, but the season's chaos does what it always does. Safety cars, contact, mechanical fate, and suddenly, the most prepared team on the grid watches its advantage dissolve not through weakness, but through circumstance. Because Formula One doesn't reward preparation. It rewards survival. Was McLaren's silence in Bahrain confidence or strategy? If Piastri ran 86 laps of race simulation and still nearly topped the timing sheet, what does his qualifying lap look like? And when the real season begins, when the fuel is low, the maps are unlocked, and nothing is held back, will the rest of the grid even see which direction McLaren went? One thing is certain. The fastest car in February doesn't always win in November. But the most understood car? That one almost always does. If you made it this far, you already know. This season isn't just about who's fastest. It's about who did the work when nobody was watching. So tell me, did McLaren just hand us the answer before the first race was even run?